What is up, everybody? Excited for today's stream. We have on a professional DFS pro, Brian Hooper. Brian, how you doing today, man?
Fantastic. Just got done talking with our buddy Maddock for an hour about Lord of the Rings. So.
Oh, really? How have you been enjoying that? I loved it personally.
You got to sub to the Patreon, to Maddox's Patreon, to find that info out. Sorry. No.
You're not going to give any of that.
I'm kidding. The long story short, for if you don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy. Actually, I was at a bachelor party in Vermont the other day at Lake Champlain, and it kind of became the theme of the weekend. We kept on playing the Hobbit song and whatnot. I think it's cool, it's kind of interesting that the Lord of the Rings, the new one, and the new Game of Thrones, both are kind of showing characters of the past, the ancestors of the characters that we know today. It's kind of interesting they came out at the same time and are doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. It's because they're more creatively bankrupt, and they have to go and use the IP that's available, and that's the only direction they can go because there's nothing in the future of Lord of the Rings. And so there you go.
So we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings. A little spoiler, so mute the next 1 minute if you don't want any spoilers. At the end of episode 1, I've watched the 2 episodes. That's clearly Gandalf, right?
I don't know. I think it might be one of the Blue Wizards.
It could be an ancestor of him.
The problem with this series is, I went in thinking it was going to be awful, is because they bought the rights to a small part of Tolkien's catalog, and it doesn't have much dialogue or anything like that. It's just kind of timelines, and so the writers literally have to write Tolkien. And it's that's not going to be easy to do, right? So they're just making a whole bunch of shit up, and that's why they have those Harfoots, is because they didn't get the rights to the Hobbits, so they just made up Harfoots.
Oh, I just thought that was they're not called Hobbits yet. They're just
they just completely made that up, and
that's a different species.
That's why they're staying hidden, because no one's ever seen them and no one ever will. That type of thing.
Oh, I thought that was just okay. Before the Hobbits,
it's not proto Hobbits.
No, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
because they didn't have the rights to the Hobbits.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they're not getting sued.
And
actually,
also, I don't really like how the Harfoots look. Honestly, they just look kind of weird compared to the Hobbits. But whatever, man. So. I've reached 1,000 subscribers. I want to say, guys, thanks for everyone who subscribed to my shit show of a channel. We rarely have any agenda or anything, but primarily I've done best ball streams today. Not sure what I'm going to do once the season kicks off. What's your relationship with best ball, as far as I'm assuming you're not a heavy grinder of live drafts and whatnot. Perhaps you've auto drafted some contests that overlay or whatnot. Talk to people through that. How long have you been doing best ball? What have you done in that space?
3 years I've been playing best ball, which I think is basically when it came out, but I didn't do I didn't get hardcore into it. The first one I was doing was those Yahoo drafts.
I never did any of those.
They were just so soft. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna.
Was it cash game or was it a tournament?
It's cash game. They only have cash games on there, unless they put some tournament on there that I haven't seen. So it's just cash game, people auto drafting and for $500 and stuff too. So I did some of those the first year. I don't know if I did any BBM ones. But then last year I did some DraftKings and not a ton though.
Yeah, cool. What about this year? Have you gone a little bit harder?
This year I'm at 50 or 60 BBM 3s, 50 or 60 DraftKings.
All manually drafted or by you?
All the BBM 3, the DraftKings ones, I'm it is really hard to multi-table DraftKings. Like,
dude, I've been doing 5 at a time for the past 2 days.
Five is
my
probably the
dopamine is
max.
gone.
And you have more practice than me, and so like I would probably do like 3. But I don't have the time. I don't have the time, so I'm doing just a shit ton, like 15, and then I'm like managing them.
Yeah.
Like I'm going, okay, this has 1 tight end. I need another tight end. I'll just highlight the tight ends, and I'll go to the next one. Okay, this one, we have a clear stack here. Pop it, go to the next one. I'm just letting it like auto draft, but I'm like kind of managing it, like hands off, kind of managing it. And then what you have to do if you're doing it this
did you adjust your rankings?
That's what I was just gonna say. If you're gonna do it this way, you have to adjust your rankings because you're not gonna get any QBs. You're not gonna get your tight ends are all fucked up. And also on DraftKings, you want to be aggressive with tight ends, in my opinion. I don't know, because you got the flex spot if you're using this strategy, because if you auto draft 2 stud tight ends, it's fine. You got the flex. It's fine to have Waller and Pitts. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's fine to have Andrews. It doesn't fucking matter as much as it does in the other sites. So like, that's my strategy on DraftKings to kind of get in the 150 there. But
if I was in your shoes, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think DK's, if you auto draft a whole draft on DK, I think their default build is 4 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. So if I was in your shoes and I'm just like trying to manage like a bunch at a time and let auto draft help me out, I think I would like try to jam wide receivers, because if you're doing 7 wide receivers and they're 7 late, your lineups are dead. Like I've been noticing that, like the high stakes, a lot of these dudes who are like DFS, what sharks or whales, or I don't even know, like they auto their 555 teams, or they're even their 2K teams. It's like unbelievable to me. But like they'll end up with like 2 wide receivers by round like 13, and then like 6 dead guys. So I think I do like 1 RB early, just trust the volume there. Try not to get the 4 quarterbacks, but if I do, punt the 4 and try to like get a bunch of wide receivers early, and then let auto help me out. So
that's what I did do. I re-ranked by hand, because you can't upload on there too. DraftKings is the worst best ball product. So I re-ranked it all by hand. And I was getting way too many wide receivers. Like I would get like 8 wide receivers in the first 8 rounds or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I was like literally looking at like Daniel Jones as my number 1 QBs. And so like I had to redo it. This is what I was trying to get at earlier. So like I'm wide receiver heavy, but I'm not, if I get auto picked and I can't keep up, I'm still going to get some Kyler Murrays. I'm still going to get some Trey Lances. I'm still going to get these guys. And then the second step was moving up to tight ends, because then you start falling back on tight ends. And there is, even with the weaker competition, I think is kind of the unanimous opinion, DraftKings has more donks on it. But then that also means they're taking guys when they shouldn't, and then you kind of you might lose out on tight ends, you might lose out on running backs. So getting that, like ranking your 100, top 200 or something like that is different when you're doing this strategy than if you were just ranking your top 200 and then sending it out to the public or to your subs or whatever, however you want to do that. Like you could even just have like 2 tight ends who you wouldn't rank together, just put them next to each other because you want to get one of them. And
I would maybe do like, if I was going to auto draft them all, I have a bunch of ideas of what I would do, but I would maybe like, and this is just pure auto draft, like maybe put like Josh Allen at like number 1 overall, and then every other quarterback last. So you're going to get Josh Allen and then 3 whatevers, and like things like that. Like you can like force.
I thought of that too. So what I did there was I raised Josh Allen up. I raised Lamar Jackson up.
Yeah, those are mobile.
You want, and also because you're not stacking, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be able to stack if you're auto drafting 20 teams at once. Like you just can't do it on DraftKings. It's too shitty. And so you got the mobile QBs up a little bit, and then you're gonna get them a little bit more in your portfolio. And then what I'm gonna do is, it sucks because there's no CSV download for DraftKings, but like you'd like to do some portfolio work while you're auto drafting, but it's tough on that site. And then on drafters, I'm only at like 10 drafts because I want to sit down, do 10 drafts at once in multi-table, and it's tough to do that on drafters because of the volume.
Well, drafters is a lot more friendly to auto draft because it's total points. So who cares about stacks as much? And you can set positional limits, and the rankings is friendly.
Yes, I would rank it honestly on the PC. I know people love Underdog's mobile, but I would rank it draft. If you're going to multi-table, drafters number one, Underdog a close second, DraftKings a very distant third.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and DraftKings definitely has a softer field, but I don't know. To me, as terms of like ROI, which like in these large field GPPs, obviously no one's going to realize their ROI really. And to me, it's like, I think I'm more likely to win on a tougher platform, even though it's easier on DraftKings, because how do you plan to draft with dude taking Brian Hoyer like in the first round? You can't plan for the softness. Like, okay, you could say some things like late at night, early morning, later in the season, but like if you need to be with terrible people, is my point. Like that's not help. Like everyone thinks they're the smartest in the world. Be like, oh, DraftKings are so soft. It's like, okay, great. So you min cashed a bunch of teams. Like you can't plan for some dude gets 3 first-round picks because everyone else is taking their hometown quarterback. And that's why I liked Underdog. And I looked at that room and I recognized some of the names I drafted with because it was in June when I drafted the winner. And like, there's some high stakes grinders in that was in that room with me, and no one was doing any like donkey stuff.
Yeah, that complaint gets thrown around throughout gambling history. Like, poker players like, I can't play with donks in the early 2000s. Like they're too bad.
No, I like to play with them, but like, how do I plan? Like, if that's what you need, like, you know.
Well,
what I mean?
I think it's like if you just use an extreme example. And someone just drafts the bottom of the 1,000 ranked players, just drafts from the bottom. That's like free money.
That should be thrown out for collusion. Is the hope? Which I think DraftKings.
But let's say they voluntarily did this for some reason and wrote ahead to Underdog saying, "I am going to draft the worst team ever," but this is an extreme example, and of course this wouldn't happen. But clearly that would give you an edge. And so the closer you get to that, the better off you're going to be. So the shittier they're picking, the more money you're going to make. So like you always want bad players. But I mean, I get what you're saying.
Everyone is with the bad players is the point. And like my point is like if it takes being with 5 bad players out of 12 to win, how do you you can't plan for that. And you have to worry that like other people are getting those rooms when you're not. I don't know. It's like it's an interesting discussion, but if everyone in the world thinks DraftKings is soft and therefore they're going to win the contest, like, no, you're not.
I mean, I don't think it means you're going to win the contest, but it does mean you're probably going to get more money back on your investment.
But I mean, to me, it's like I don't need. Why I like Underdog is I know Underdog will throw out a team if someone takes JD McKissick in the first round, and then whatever, a 2,000 ranked player, because for collusion concerns, and I think they should be doing that.
Do they really do that? I don't know if I've ever had any.
I've had teams. They'll send you an email and they'll say this team is canceled for fair play and integrity reasons. And I've had different thoughts of like, obviously you want bad players to draft bad, but what you don't want is collusion happening. And obviously anyone like really doing sharp collusion shit in a large field GPP is like, why not focus your efforts on something easier? But I don't know.
I'd like to see EV calculations on that. I don't know if the gain of cheating with 2 entries is worth it in a 500,000 player pool.
But if you guarantee that, like, whatever, let's say you could guarantee the winner is going to come from your set of 150 because you're colluding on all 150. And okay, it might not be you and your partner, but you could, like, if you could control, which you can't, obviously. It's very chaotic, the NFL. there's no guarantee that first round players, second round players matter at all. You know, like it could be the late round players, and therefore you colluding to try to get JT and CMC on one team. Like that doesn't mean you win, right?
It doesn't mean you win, and it doesn't mean you get those players either. So, like, if me and you joined in a room to collude, and we were going to stack your team, I just sit there drafting shit to give you an extra spot.
Or you draft all the quarterbacks, and I get the only other elite quarter. Like, there's different things that could happen. But
yeah, I guess you could try. Like, one guy could be the guy trying to screw over the other teams.
Absolutely. Or you recognize a name of like that's a sharp person. I don't. But
you're also entering double. There's a lot of money you have to increase your EV to make up for double the entry fee, because the cheaty, like the strategically cheating team is probably going to be minus EV.
And you have to risk that you're getting caught and banned from the platform.
Sure, of course.
That would be the most obvious pattern ever if it's like these two guys always draft together.
Yeah.
And,
this was real. I say this a lot, like on at least back in our show, when our show first started, that in the early days of online gambling, everyone was trying to scam and cheat and bonus hunt and cheat the bonuses and do all this stuff. And I just, like, my advice is it's never worth it. Like, you can easily put in a little bit of work and make money using the terms and services properly. I know, like, people probably realize this a little more now than back then. They were just trying to get a quick buck, but getting banned from these platforms is never worth it, because you might actually, when you're not 18 anymore, you might want to play poker seriously or something. You can't, because you got fucking banned for, doing something dumb. And it's just not fucking worth it. And best ball's in its infancy too. So, like, people who are like, dude, they think they're the first fucking geniuses ever. Like, I could do this and you could do that, and we're going to win $2 million, bro. And it's like, it's not fucking worth it. Like, and I'm not even saying from a moral standpoint, I'm saying from your own self-interest. Like, you're going to be way more benefit from a different angle.
And to be clear, I don't think this is a worry at all in a large field Millie Maker type.
Yeah, I'm questioning whether even if you did it great, it would be worth it from an EV.
Yeah, I don't think but like, I don't know, some of the higher stakes stuff, it's a concern.
Maybe the higher stakes stuff.
And I've had thoughts of what sites should do. Like, to me, maybe you set the first 3 rounds to 100 player ranking. So even if you wanted to go out, include all the quarterbacks in case someone wants to take their hometown quarterback, but they can't take Rex Burkhead in the first. Like, you should not be allowed to do that. But I don't think it's a big concern. And obviously, they could cheat easier playing online poker. Like, call each other up, do something. Like, there's easier ways to
AIM. Everyone was using AIM back in the day. Like, I was a sucker, man. I'm like, but like, eventually when you're playing like higher stakes, you could see, you're like, I know this guy soft plays this guy he never fucking raised him on a 6-man table. They're not playing soft play was huge back then. But like, conversely, let me say this too, like besides, like, it's in your self-interest to not take these small cheaty angles. Like, you always want to protect yourself. So, like, you made a good example in the high stakes. It makes more sense to, like, think about this. Like, maybe they could have this kind of soft cheating like strategy where, like, they like, okay, I'm going to try to do this early, you try to do this early, and it screws over people more on average, and we both still get good teams. Like, something like that. Like, that can actually matter maybe a little bit in higher stakes. But anyway, when there's money involved, you just kind of always assume that there's someone trying to cheat you. Or maybe the site goes under. You shouldn't even put money on there at all. Like, I've had tens of thousands fucking stolen from me, So just always protect yourself.
Things are a little safer nowadays as far as, like, sites rugging us, I feel.
Sure.
I mean, you've been in this space for a long time,
right? Back in the day, for sure. But I guarantee there's some fucking Russian best ball site that you could probably get down a couple grand on, and I'm almost positive there is. And like, you probably should.
Imagine if DraftKings, like, closes shop overnight.
You're like planning, like, someone tweets out, these Russian donkeys can't draft for shit, and then 2 months later, like, I got rugged by fucking Putin.com. I don't know what to do.
All right, well, let's segue a little bit. Take our tinfoil hats off for a second. Let's talk.
That ain't tinfoil, bro. That's fucking true. Go ahead.
Let's talk week 1 DFS. Now, I don't pretend to know everything about your process. What I assume is you take a very statistical process that's back through research. So my question for you is, how do you approach the early weeks? Do you go back and look at past week 1s, week 2s, like things like that? Does best ball 80, does a fantasy football ADP play into your process at all? Can you talk to the people about how much, and obviously data is very thin for NFL, like no matter what you're doing as far as like relied on early season data. But can you just talk about how, like, if you're a casual person or someone that's not a shark like you in the sense of like research back, would you say someone like me who more hand builds, IKBs, like I know better, like I've always thought maybe I have more of an edge early in the season because they don't have as much data and the meta can change quick in the NFL. So maybe they're relying on bad stats and whatnot. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot there, a lot of questions.
Yeah. So just latch on to whatever you want.
Yeah. So like the I know best bros, they do exist. Like, okay, so like the example we always use on lulls is Petty Theft, Travis Petty.
Yeah.
Everybody, he's been on the show a bunch of times. He's like an NBA, like probably the best NBA DFS player of all time. And he does a lot of it by watching the film, his own gut, making his own choices, which is the complete opposite of what I do. I want to make no choices if I don't have to at all. Yeah. And just run sims, and then whatever it pumps out, I just plug it in. And I don't even look at my lamps. I don't. I just copy the download the CSV, and upload the CSV to DraftKings, and whatever.
Boom, boom. Easy game.
Just hope there's no errors in it. I'll look for errors, but like, so it does exist. I do think though that those are like the aberrations, like the 0.01%. Most people are like the idiots who call into sports talk radio and shit, and like, and you're just like, you have to immediately turn the channel because they're so fucking annoying, So like, I wouldn't go that route. In contrarian play is more what you want to do in DFS. So like, it depends on the size of the GPP, and so like that also.
Let's talk the 4K Millie Maker, because I'm IKBing that entry. I'm gonna build an entry. It's gonna roughly correlate with my best ball portfolio. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna try to run hot to the beginning of the season, and then we'll see how it goes. Like, I'm not bankrolled to keep on playing the 4K Millie Maker.
How many entries are in it?
It's 600. It's like a 600 person field about it.
Okay,
let me look.
So I would consider that small field. So
small field, right? And I would say like not everyone's doing what you do for that field. Like, there's definitely, like, I noticed some other tout names. Let me get the exact field. It's 634 people.
No, it's a small percentage of people who do what I did. I thought it was a bigger percentage. And there's also a lot of guys who do a combination. They're like doing sims, or they use sim data. They'll use like
or they subscribe to tout sites, and
And so, with the prevalence of the tout sites, this is another thought I had when you were asking those questions. The reasons to do your own projections are smaller and smaller, because you could just pay $30 or $60, $90 and get good, solid projections. And making your own projections is actually pretty easy. Making really good projections is pretty tough. Making really good projections and keeping your database up to date and not fucking it up every week is really fucking hard. So it's a lot of work for not much gain. Now, if you are a stud DFS player and stuff like that, you're probably not listening to me anyways. But those guys, maybe that little percent edge or a couple percent edge is worth their time and effort, and they continue to do that. I still do my own projections for some sites, but I also started doing all my own projections years ago, so I have a lot less initial work to do. So like, you can get your ownership percentages and your projections from these sites. Don't use any of the bad ones, just stick with ETR, Stochastic, maybe Roto-Grinders has gotten better. There's others. SaberSim, I think people like. I don't use them.
Or just like do an average of them or something, you know, like
average them is perfectly reasonable strategy. They have like freebies too. So like if you're short money, just like see which one's free that week, and then use that as your base. And the larger the opponents, the more contrarian you're going to have to get. So in the 600 one Liam's playing, first of all, it's going to be sharper. So most of the value plays will be higher owned. So you could go look at the ownership projections and just assume they're going to all be higher for the top end. So like if somebody's projected to be 25% owned, which is pretty high, in the Millie Maker, the small field one, he'll probably be 40% owned or something like that. You know, just making numbers up. And which will also lead to some opportunities of guys who are in the middling range being pretty low owned in the high stakes. So as the field size increases, you could kind of go like 1,000 or under, smallish, 5,000 or to 15 or 10. I mean, not 15, but around the 5,000 range is middle, and then like 15 or over is large. And then football is like the only sport that has these mega huge entries where there's 300,000 entrants and stuff like that. And like it's just such a lottery that like sure you could build out specifically for those.
Looking at it's 1,200,000 in the $5 Millie Maker for DraftKings Week 1.
Okay, there you go.
And there's already almost 330,000 teams entered, and it's Monday.
So you're going to have to get contrarian, but there's a point to it, right? Like there's a point. You can't just put 0.01% guys in every single slot, right? You still want to make reasonable lineups in those, and you're going to just get kind of what we started this conversation off. You're going to get a lot of dead teams and donks and hopefully you win one of those millies before your career is over gambling, but you're probably not gonna.
That's basically what happened to me. Is like I've searched Millie Maker fields forever, you know, and like I've had some sweats. Like I finished top 200 in the DK Millie Maker, maybe 100. I don't know. Like I've had a couple times where it's like, and dude, 2 years ago, it's like I was a teacher, right? So I'm not high salaried, and I stopped teaching. I worked for chess.com. I was playing DFS all week, or it's 2 years ago, 1 year ago, whatever. And I was just like losing, right? Because I'm playing tournaments and probably not that good. Like who knows? But I remember the week that the Bills played the Cardinals and the Cardinals won on that Hail Mary. I built a team that was going to win the 100K and like the 150 max or something like that, and I edited the team. Like I almost never do it. I'm like, I don't want to ever edit a winner. I edited the team. I was like, I want to change this, and then I looked back and I was like, God damn, that team would have won. Like, and no, like, who even would believe that story if I didn't ship a big enough contest? Like, I have no incentive to lie about that. But It was like, I was like, oh my God, like like that was like the break I needed a little bit, and then we got it later, you know.
I've heard that story a million times. Sorry, like in Discord and stuff, everyone's like, I switched one guy out, and I would have won 300K at PGA. It's like, yeah.
So let's go back. How do you feel as far as like people like you, which again, it's not a big part of the population? Do you feel that your edge compared to later in the season is less to start? Or is it more because you have historical trends? Like
last year was the beginning of the season.
Was the best for you?
Yeah. You know, I know a lot of guys stop playing baseball and NBA as the season goes along too. I never
and
stopped.
I'm talking strictly NFL to be clear. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, but it's all corollary, you know, because it's really what happens is the donks lose their money, and there's just less of them, and you're playing against more skilled people, and you're just the variance can catch up to you, and so that same thing occurs in every sport. It doesn't really matter, and football is just insane because it's only so many slates, right? There's only 17 weeks, and not many. There's not like in baseball, you could get 12 slates in a week more if you really want to, because they play like today. There's two main slates, 250K to firsts, so you can even out your variance over time. And the difference is, so like today, the 50K to first MLB early slate, 11,000 entrants, right? Now compare that with football, right, where you're playing against 100,000 people, 200,000. So all the prize pools for their equivalents in other sports are way bigger. So it's way hard. You're playing against more combos. There's more variance. It's going to take longer to see your edge.
It's
so
a bit more chaotic of a sport too.
Sure. Yeah. It's
like
got a fucking oblong ball, right? And it hits the ground. Who knows where it's going to go? So like, you could, like, in theory, you could be a good NFL DFS player and like lose for years. It's completely believable because it's just such a small slate.
That's what I've been telling myself. No,
yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what I want everyone to think, keep playing, guys.
So has your process started for the Thursday night game or the Sunday slate? Or
no, because of this fucking best ball. I'm trying to get best ball in.
That's me too. Let's build a team together, man. Let's build a Thursday night large field team.
Okay.
I got a couple tabs open here. This is the Thursday. This is the $5 or the $10 milli maker. I want you to set a rule for us. Max salary we're spending for this.
I don't generally set those limits, but
let's just do it for this though.
Okay, but let me just say really quick. So we were talking about classic DFS version, not Showdown.
Yes, we're going to do that too. We're going to do that.
So with Showdown, the main issues, we want to avoid duplicating your opponents, and so that's why you're suggesting a salary cap for one of the reasons. I do have a dupe calculator I could plug our team into and then give us a guess on how many dupes it'll be. But
well, it's going to be duped if we're streaming it. But
shit, yeah, you're right. I don't know. I wouldn't cap it. I guess just do a soft cap of like 500 just to start, and maybe go down from there.
Okay, so that close. But there's some interest. There's some higher draft capital guys in best ball that are cheap. Like obviously, Isaiah McKenzie sticks out at 20.
So here's my
regular.
Can I just give you my? I know you want to pick players, but my general strategy here.
No, we don't need to. I want to do whatever you want to do, Brian.
No. We can pick players.
I want and need the strategy, to be clear.
So like my general advice for this is for people who aren't, who are just playing for entertainment or whatever, make a little money, is I would pick like 2 teams or 4 teams into this, something like that. Unless you really want to gamble. 2 teams, 4 teams in this, and I would make each team different than the other one, and preferably in a negatively correlated way.
Yeah, I heard you say that on Davis's pod on one of the episodes. Why, I think sometimes of like the roulette strategy where you like flower a number, like just rotate one low-owned guy and like stick with your core. Like, why do the negative correlated lineups rather than switching out the darts you kind of do? Where, like it's a really more all-in strategy that
it like the core. Like I don't like cores. So I don't like the idea of course because it goes along. I got my ESPN app blaring at me. I don't like the core talking point or whatever in general because I don't think people know what they're fucking talking about. And I think, like I said, there's a 0.01% chance that you're the Travis Petty of NFL. Like it's very unlikely. And so you probably don't know better than the projections. You probably don't know better than the ownership. So just assume you don't. And so if you assume you don't, and you're just going to put together a solid team, you don't want to have the same guess. You want to have a second shot that where if this lineup does bad, actually this one might do good because it's the defense and the quarterback. So you have one quarter, I'm just using examples here. And in basketball,
you're telling a story with the lineup, or you're telling two different
tell a
stories.
Story. I'm fine with telling a story. I'm fine with all that stuff. There are some certain things you want to follow that are generally better than others, just like in best ball, where you don't want to have 5 QBs, right? You want to have like 2 or 3. And so in showdowns, you probably want to stack. You probably want to do a 5-1. This is, maybe a 4-2. And then, so in your other lineup, then you have a 5-1 that's completely opposite and hopefully negatively
Does
correlated.
the 5-1 versus 4-2 change for you when it's two, like the Rams and the Bills? These are 2 teams we expect to be very good on offense. Does that change at all for you, where it's could be more back and forth, or do you still kind of want to lean into that lesser owned type builds?
I'm not hand building. So for me, I just press the button and then enter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but you choose.
Generally speaking,
you do choose, right? Like, are you deciding for your? Is the computer building everything for you? Or are you saying I want some 5-1, some 4-2, some? No. Okay.
I'm not saying any of that. Well, I might be saying it from like historical data and stuff like that, but me personally, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying because it's the Rams, I'm going to have more 4-2s or something like that. Like that never happens. Although that might be right, and you might be that.
But what I'm saying, like your data could have assessed past slates and been like, this is not the Chiefs versus the Lions. This is, like your data could lead you to be doing these type of things potentially, right?
I totally agree with that. And if you are going to build out a huge process, you should be more dynamic. You should be dynamic like that, where it's not just like, no, it's all 5-1s. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Like it should be. There should be some dynamic to every sport and every process where it's not exactly the same thing every time. Like in baseball is the same way. There's 5-3 stacks. There's 4-4 stacks. There's 5-1-1-1s. Like it should probably be a mix of those. Like if we ever get the eventual GTO, full GTO strategy, it's probably some sort of mix. And I imagine same thing with Showdown NFL. It's probably going to be some sort of mix. And on some slates, it's going to be a bunch more 5-1s. And others more 5-2s. But I'm just saying broad general advice. I would do like 2 or 4 entries. Don't do the core thing. You're probably not a 0.01% star. And if you're paying for projections, just use them. And then you want to try
the variance discussion, right? Like if you use a core, when you're wrong, you lose, like usually. But if you're right, is it not different than like a heavy exposure in best ball or the same thing? Like where it's like, when you're right, you're really right. When you're like, for example, you could rotate. I know there's 3 Bills players with 200 that are likely to see the field. And so like, if I'm trying to win the million, just like using those 3 alternating, like if any of them fall into the end zone, et cetera, like that, like having a core, then rotating those 3 seems like something I might try to do if I'm doing whatever, 10 entries hand built, something like that.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Let's say there's, a tight end who's like got 1 catch projected. And then there's another tight end on the same team with 1 catch projected. No one really knows who's going to get that extra time. It's perfectly solid strategy in 2 of them, I take this one guy and the other 2, I take the other guy, but I don't take them together. You know what I mean? Football's a little kooky, but because it's Showdown and you're playing against 8 billion people, maybe you do want to go 2 tight end, just so you don't get duped. But like, finishing the strategy talk really quickly, and then you want to play enough or have some sort of strategy where you can determine that your duplications are going to try to be in like the 5 range, hopefully under that, but not giving away too much edge, and not hopefully much more than 10, because at a certain point you're just splitting so much equity that it's just not worth it to put in those lineups. Like you don't want to get too insane, but if you can dial it in, and that's something you could learn by hand for sure and get good at. Like, okay, I feel like this lineup with 700 under the cap and it doesn't have a lot of ownership. The captain's kind of low owned, but he's got a chance to win. It's a 5-1 stack. Okay. Or a 1-5 is going to be even less duped, right? So it's got the 1 in the captain and the 5 opponents, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You learn
almost easier to hand build an IKB showdown, maybe. Where you could, like, if you do enough slates over time, you're going to kind of learn, like, you're going to look at the winners and be like, oh, this guy won with a player I didn't even hear about. Or,
Yeah. I think Showdown NFL is probably one of the best spots for casuals, because there's a lot of dead money in it. And And if you just do what I was saying, like just learn how to go low on
a casual that's doing what you're saying, not a casual that's using 50,000 salary.
Right. Yeah. I'm saying, a guy who just wants to enter, dummies are going to dummy. Like they're going to lose anyways. I'm saying someone who's intelligent and wants to, gamble and try to like do their best to win a little money, but they don't want 150 max and spend 20 hours or 80 hours a week if your chess is okay, learning building models and all this type of shit is showdowns. Because also showdowns, there's a lot more slates. You could do showdowns Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night, sometimes twice on Monday, Thursday night, right?
Does your model, obviously share what you're willing, but does it treat the Thursday games a little differently? Because the narrative around Thursday games is they're a little bit lower scoring because teams are coming off rest. I'm wondering, like, that's a fascinating question to me. Like, in my mind, maybe Monday showdown, like other showdowns should be in one bucket, and Thursday night could potentially be in another bucket. Although that can be super skewed by sample because also the NFL usually throws like the shittiest teams on Thursday night football. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
There's like a Thursday button. Is this a Thursday game? No, it's
like the Jacksonville Texans game. Like that's like a prototypical Thursday night football game where every team needs to get one primetime game. So like that's the primetime game they give them Thursday.
It doesn't, because the spreads and the projections are already going to have that baked in, right? And you're not going to beat an NFL side.
No,
they're too sharp. So like they're already baked in. They know if it's 37 total backup QBs.
Hey Brian, do you play any backup quarterbacks in Showdown at all? I mean, honestly, like for a field with 1 million plus people, or this is 355,000 people about, you should potentially get even in your lifetime if you 150 max backup quarterback. I mean, so let's talk about what you need. You probably need the starter to go down in the first quarter, if not the first half, and then do well.
And do well,
and do well. Like so, there's several cases that we can, like the Derek Carr when he was on. The Marcus Mariota when he was on the Raiders. That shipped with a backup quarterback. I would assume you don't do this because you have a beatable, profitable showdown method that does not rely on the quarterbacks getting injured. But, it seems plausible that you could ship the Millie with the backup quarterback theory. I don't know. Let's hear from you there.
So obviously this is a running joke in DFS for a long time because Siege famously gave the draft the backup QB strategy and everyone just shit on him for like 3 years. And then eventually the backup QB started winning. I've never studied it. I could put it in to my process. I don't know if it's worth my time putting it in though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like
it might be. But that's how I would definitely do it. I would still quantify it through the way I build all my stuff, and you could do it fairly easily. It could be that like 1 to 2% of your 150 should be a backup quarterback every X percent of time. Something like that wouldn't shock me.
So you don't think it would ever be always do 150 backup quarterback? You lose every slate, but those couple slates you're shipping it.
No, because the game you don't ever need to even take like 150% of like 0.1% on guys because you gain so much when the 1 or 2 entries you already do have hits. So like you just never need to do that, period.
If you're a casual person out there and you're throwing in 2 lineups and you're okay with one dying, but having a really good chance of winning the very rare circumstance when a quarterback goes down, I think it's okay to do it. But you got to know you got to be willing to just be like, damn, I maybe would have won if I didn't play Chase Keenum. Or
I would do that. Then I would do, if I only want to do like that low entries, I would do like 3, and I would do 2 with that QB, the main one, and then the third one with the backup.
Yeah.
Balance it that way, something like that. So like any way you're going to do it, just try to do it smart like that, where you're lowering risk, giving yourself the best chance with a low dupe lineup.
This is Felix who won the DraftKings Best Ball Millie last year. It is okay to lose, man. I've done a lot of losing in my gambling life. I promise you that.
Oh yeah. If you think I'm EV shaming anybody, come on, man.
No. I don't think you are. I don't think.
Yeah,
you are.
no. Listen, I'm all for entertaining. Gambling's an entertainment product, and if you want to do it, I do it all the time when I'm negative EV. But yeah, no shame here, buddy.
All right. Well, do you want to? Let's just build a team together.
Yeah, let's pick a team.
Guys, please.
I can't do it without numbers. I need.
Do you need me to make this bigger? I have it really zoomed out because
I can't see it, so I wonder if anyone else can.
I was multi-tabling the DraftKings best balls, and that's
yes, wow. I shrink it down too. Yeah,
I had to zoom out balls, so that I could get the 5. All right, let's have you start us off with the captain. Do you want to scroll down a little bit?
No, not too far down. You generally don't want to go too crazy low on the captain.
Gabe Davis is my guy, but I'm okay wherever you want to go here.
So like defenses were a little overowned last year. Captain kickers are very rarely.
Aren't you worried about the Von Miller narrative?
I say we go backup QB a captain. No. A-Rob, I'm kind of liking.
Well, Tre'Davious White's out for the Bills. Their star corner. And they're going to throw out a rookie out there and an undrafted free agent. So their corners could be kind of bad to begin the season for the Bills.
Yeah,
they have really good D-line and pass rush.
Robinson. Sometimes these studs up top can be lower owned because their salaries are so high, but I doubt that's not going to happen with Kupp and Allen.
Well, Stafford, and also there's so many salary savers this slate with McKenzie.
Wait a second. I can look at the ownership right now. Let's do that. But anyways, I'm leaning Robinson. What do you think about that?
I like Robinson. And if we do that, I kind of want to do 5 Bills in the flex to get unique. Does that?
You want to do the 1-5 backwards? Yeah. Okay. I like it.
Or were you planning to do Stafford with Robinson?
Well, if we did Stafford, then we're going to have to go down in salary and ownership. But I mean, you could. There's 100 ways to slice and dice it. Let me.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to tell a story here to the people, which let's get full screen for this.
All right.
Allen Robinson goes off for 202 because the Bills throw 3 corners on Cooper Kupp. But the Bills just beat up on the Rams. And that's why you need 5 Bills. That's loosely the story we're telling here. If we do
I have the ownership
backwards. Okay, you got the ownership.
This is stochastic, so go sub the stochastic people because I'm giving away your ownership. They will change these though. So they got Kupp, then Diggs, then Allen, then Robinson, top 4 owned at captain. Really? Then Stafford, Gay, which I wouldn't pick him that high on. Higbee, Bass, Singletary, Akers, Knox, Cook. So now I want to change. Now I want to go more in the Knox, Akers.
I love Dawson Knox. I love Akers. Man, I don't love the player and the football take. The Bills got a good D line, but I'm cool with really any of the lower owned captains.
And we do need a miracle, right? We need a miracle. We need everything to go perfect.
Do you want to do Knox? Because I could see why Knox is low owned because he's more expensive than Allen Robinson. So it makes sense that
a Knox 1-5 could work too. Like you could see Allen throwing just 1 touchdown. That's it.
That could happen. Or he does just enough in the ground, and all the running backs do a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. So if we do Knox captain,
we could still want to get
do we want to get this what do they have McKenzie's ownership at? Is that at crazy high ownership?
No, they have him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 20th ranked guy, just above Van Jefferson, below Crowder, below Knox.
In ownership? Just in the flex?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's I feel like McKenzie's going to be really high owned in higher stakes type stuff. Maybe.
Now, if we do McKenzie, then we're going to probably start leaning towards Allen as well then, right? Because what story are we telling?
We don't need to do I mean, I think McKenzie's a good play because he's, I think, a potential star player that is 2,400.
Right, but how's he going to score a touchdown?
Well, he's going to score. Yeah, exactly. No, we would need Allen. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, but
McKenzie,
I'm just surprised he's so low owned.
yeah, that's good then. Let's do it.
Bill
And by the
McKenzie-
way, these numbers can change, obviously.
These numbers can change, and I would assume week 1, Monday, they've not really done anything. It's been Labor Day weekend, so no one take these numbers as law.
Okay.
So
we can easily get under.
I mean, we could do Stafford Cup. We could do whatever we want now.
Yeah.
How about you throw out a player for us?
I think Knox and McKenzie right now are helping us, so I think we can play some good solid players here still. Do we just want to go? I don't know if we can go Diggs because Knox, McKenzie,
I don't think we
Allen,
should do
Diggs.
Yeah.
Then Allen's probably going to be captain if all those guys go off, right?
Yes.
So I hate taking kickers.
Should we do Cup and just see what happens with our salary?
Well, we could go tight end Thursday, tight end narrative. Take Higbee.
Oh, Higbee or all right, I like Higbee. That puts us at 99 average. Should we get a defense in there, or are you usually team no defense at all?
No, I like defenses and Showdown. I'm not huge on kickers, although I will have kickers. So hopefully I win one with kicker, and someone will be, when you were on Liam's stream, you said you didn't like kickers.
Yeah, I'm sure you can go to bed with your $1 million.
Yeah, I will not care. Trust me.
Should we do Bills D or Rams D?
And then we're gonna have a ton of salary left over. If we did Rams D, we're gonna be pretty unique.
Rams D with Cup.
Okay, that lineup is probably not duped.
3,800 left. Yeah, almost.
It's kind of shitty. But
yeah, pretty low. I mean, what's the story we're telling here? So we're saying that like Josh Allen runs for a lot this game,
and he throws one to Knox and McKenzie.
Yep.
Or maybe like 80 yards and 3 catches for McKenzie and a Knox touchdown, something like that.
McKenzie can be like 80 and 8. Knox can be like 2 touchdowns. Higbee, get some solid yards and touchdowns. It's like
Allen also has to throw a pick 6, which helps because it keeps him out of the captain slot.
Yeah, we need a pick 6 and some sacks.
Yeah, I'm not loving Higbee Cup now though, because how does that play out for us if those guys?
I think that's like Higbee gets like 8 and 8, and Cup is like 10 and 100.
Who's under Cup? Would it be Diggs? Would be the obvious play.
Stafford.
I might go Stafford or Diggs, and then we're so far under the cap right now, we're not getting duped.
Yeah, and so we could play Diggs, but we're playing Rams D over Diggs.
The problem with Diggs is then Allen's got a good chance of being captain if all those guys go off.
Would you like? So this is a case where if I liked and I wanted to play an extreme strategy, I would like play Rams D, but I'd also play like Gay, Bass, Bills D, Henderson, whatever. Maybe stop it at Robinson and play everyone under that could do it. And just realize I'm going to lose a lot of the times, but if these 4 are nutted, and I'm not sure about like how to get unique, what do you think about that strategy? Like that's not what you're advising, but
right. That's not. No, I certainly not with 2 or 4 entries, because essentially you're just spending both your entries on one lineup, basically. So yeah, it's way more risky. And like I said, one of the issues with NFL already is it's super risky for all the reasons I listed. So I wouldn't do that. And like, again, the same thing was with a core, just like my best ball, advice is like, you're saying, more if you draft someone over 8.3%, more than everyone else. Or if you draft under, you know more than everyone else by a significant margin if you draft them high or low, which might be the case for you guys who pay attention to this stuff all the time. I'm not saying it's not possible.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's pretty unlikely, if we're being honest with our own abilities, that
I don't think with best ball it's the same talk. Like I think best ball, like the ADP is so egregious to begin the season, and like the ADP fluctuates so wildly.
But also, Liam, it's easier right now to be a best ball 0.01 percenter. It's a new game. Not a lot of people are into it. So I'm really not talking shit at all. Like you guys who are doing this stuff all the time, you probably should be drafting early. But DFS is a much more mature market, and you can get good projections for relatively cheap. So it's unlikely to me that doing a core with 2 to 3 lineups is a smart play. I would so like whatever we do here, I would just flip it in our next entry, just as best I could.
So like maybe you could talk through, like, let's not build it, but roughly talk through how you would like you would just no overlapping players or just a different
captain? So well, like obviously I would do, like, instead of the Rams, then I would do the Bills.
Okay.
You can overlap a little bit, like, because sometimes it doesn't really matter, but you really want to find those negatively correlated plays. So like then since we have Knox and McKenzie, then we want Diggs or something else, because hopefully they don't get it. Diggs gets it. Yeah, shit like that. And then maybe you'd have to stick with Allen again there. And then, okay, instead of, if Stafford's not having a good game, now in our next one, let's say Akers does that, something like that. It's the same story you're telling yourself. It's just the opposite version.
Can we, this is kind of what I was saying. Like, I don't think the core strategy is saying we know better than the market. It's just it's just a variance thing where it's like, to me, at least.
I would say it kind of is.
Like I know I'm gambling, right? I know I'm most likely wrong, but like the few times I'm right, I hope to win the contest.
Yeah, no. I hear what you're saying. That's a fair
for Showdown.
Yeah, that's a fair critique of my critique. But I still think there probably still is some inherent, even though you personally aren't saying that, you still are through your strategy, because you're claiming that this core is the core that has some sort of edge, but like, because otherwise, it could just be random anyone's then. Like, I mean, and like, I don't know if okay, fine. You're not saying you're better than,
but how is it different than some DFS players like lock in a player, and I'm sure they're obviously they think it's a good play, but they do realize that player could tank their lineups.
There's lots of guys who play like that.
Yeah, but like you continue to do it because it's just when you're right, what do you win? And when you're wrong, you lose. And the point is, like, if you don't get first in these contests, you basically lost anyways. It's kind of how I think about it.
No, I'm agreeing now generally, but with this is like you're trying to look at it as a strategy. Those guys who do the core, they think that they know that these players are good plays. Like almost 99-100%. They're not doing it just as a strategy piece. Like they're like, no, these are the core pieces, and then I'm going to go around it. And by the way, they're welcome to their opinion, and I'm not trying to persuade them either. I think they're wrong. I don't think that's a good strategy. And especially like back to our situation here, if you're doing 2 or 3 or 4, it's like, what? No, come on. Like you're not getting any extra enough combos, I think, to matter. You're just basically betting $20 instead of 10. I don't think you're really increasing much of your edge.
Anecdotally, I feel like the way I've done in the past, because I am someone who's almost never maxing a showdown and probably throwing like 10 to 20 lineups ish. And like if I have a lineup that has like a couple $200 players, but there's other $200 players who could see the field, I'll just swap those guys. But we spent too much time on this. Let's enter this lineup. But can we get you full screen here to tell the people Please don't dupe us.
Please don't dupe me, guys. Or don't. Am I part of this? Do I have to ship you some money?
Please don't. Yeah, you got equity. You got equity in this lineup, specifically this one here. And guys, just realize if this wins and you win with us, that we will come for you. We will. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and we have to split the million. Like, you're not going to win the million on your own.
Here's what's really interesting is, like, you were saying earlier about the you would do the five dupes max thing, and I was thinking, like, oh, why not do no dupes max? But then I was thinking the TOC entry, like, that changes the equation a little bit, where if you split it with 5 people, now you have a 1 in 5 chance or better, if those people are bad, of winning that TOC ticket. Have you? Does that weigh at all into your thoughts?
No, I've never considered winning the extra terms or Tournament of Champions playoff ticket. No, I didn't. But the reason I say 5 is because if you say 1, they'll make it really donkey lineups. And if you say 10, they might make too chalky lineups. And so if you kind of just hope to get around 5 until you get good at it, that's like a nice little, sweet spot.
All right. Well, we're coming on an hour now. I don't know if we're going to actually rip a draft today. What are your thoughts? I don't think anyone watching this channel would purposely dupe a lineup until me.
So Pete and my strategy is we make the worst fucking lineups on the planet. So usually people won't dupe us.
No one will dupe it.
They're so bad. Our showdown lineups are so bad. And people still dupe us and then tweet at us that they duped our lineup. I thought, since we don't have a ton of time here, I was thinking maybe we could talk about bots and HUDs and stuff like that. I know.
Oh, yes, I really want to talk about that.
Yeah,
I'm happy you brought that up. Let's do that. We'll scrap the draft. Because to be clear, you have created a HUD that does a couple cool things, and maybe just tell people about that HUD, and then I'll give. And then we'll
it's at my website, brick75.com. It basically just overlays data. So I started, it overlaid prop data from like Stochastic and ETR and Roto Grinders.
Did I spell that right here?
Yeah. And so, like, instead of like looking at a player's prop, let's say 100 receiving yards, and then going to your site that you pay for, and then going back and then looking at the VIG, it just all does it in one spot. You just upload the CSV and then it overlays the data. It shows you which ones are over and under by color, green or red. Green's good, red's bad. And from there, Pete got into best ball, and then I eventually got into best ball. And I'm like, why don't we add that? Add best ball to it too. Like, there's stuff you could overlay, rankings or the portfolio, which obviously I harp on a lot. And so I added best ball, and then now we're adding DFS too. And I'm going to try to add some cool stuff for like the things we were just doing there, trying to figure out how to make your dupes lower and just, simple stuff. I never wanted to do DFS because I don't want it to affect my income. And I don't care about props and best ball. No offense. Like, it's fun and stuff like that, but it's not how I make a living. So I will be adding DFS here. And also I need to get the NFL props going, because right now it only is NBA. But anyways, that's what it is. It just overlays data on these sites.
Yeah, so let's I've not been shy, and honestly, I didn't know how to approach this to begin, because clearly, I count you as an internet friend. This is our first time doing a stream together, but I don't want to hurt anyone's business model here, and I count the Spike Week guys as friends as well. But from my take, these HUDs are step 1 to producing. Basically, what I want to avoid is me drafting against computers in best ball. And what I think is happening right now is what I count as like the common folk, like the everyday man. They're like, wow, look at this HUD. This is cool. Helps me out with best ball. Like, how great. But what they don't realize is what that could turn into is someone with a really big bankroll who does not know anything about best ball, but knows they can download this bot that they just click a button and it starts drafting for them. And clearly, the large field GPPs is not really the spot to sweat it to begin because, again, it's so unlikely to win. It's so hard to realize your ROI. I think it would first be trained on cash games, but we've seen it in poker. We've seen some poker sites ban HUDs. And, I'm someone who I'm protective of my exposures to begin the season. And that's because I don't care about anyone watching this channel that's like entering the lottery field best ball contest. I do care about a DFS shark that's firing at the DraftKings 555 best ball tourney. That's a 2K field. I don't exactly want to be helping those people because I have, the ego or the hubris to think that I have an edge in this game as it's currently played. So the HUDs, it's not something that I have showcased on my channel. I do not use them. Part of it's definitely ego by my part. Like, I don't need these. I know all this stuff. I can do it. And again, as it is today, I don't really have a problem with it. What I would like with what you have, I think it's cool. And I understand why most people don't care because they're not crazy like me. But I don't want my ownerships to be a composite ownership of what is showed to the people. No offense to anyone out there. I don't make any money off of goddamn YouTube. I only made money off of best ball. I'm trying to win these tournaments, as much of a dream as that is. So what do you think about HUDs, and is this step one? And do you think that and I think some of the stuff you said on Davis's pod is what I agreed with is it would be a statistical model that would measure okay, and it would have a randomizer component, and it would say, okay, if I took X player, I should then be willing to take teams from X player to further my win percentage, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you can, I throw a lot there, but.
Yeah, that's another one. There's 10 things I have to.
I have ADHD, man. So I throw it all out there and then we just see this.
I had a pen and paper in my, from the start, the poker HUDs were banned. You mentioned it's a little more nuanced than that. Some sites didn't ban them. And not only did they not ban them, they gave them free to the customers.
Yes.
And a lot of the criticisms about HUDs aren't overlaying your own stuff like our HUD does. It's gathering data on your opponents, which you could do in theory in best ball, but it's not nearly as advantageous as it is in poker. And so I don't think it's apples to apples to say hey, they banned them in poker. No, they didn't. Not really. It's a little more complicated than that.
That's fair.
I think the current versions. So I actually agree with your long term. It's definitely cash game guys need to worry more than GPP bros. So if you just play GPPs, I would not care at all about bots.
But eventually, could there not be a profitable robot that look, the rich person knows it's unlikely to win, but they don't have to invest the time. And part of the alert of best ball to me in the beginning is that I knew people like you were not putting in the time to draft those teams. So I knew inherently it cuts out the DFS sharks because the sites are unfriendly. It takes an hour. It takes time. It takes a time investment. I want to be drafting best ball teams against people, not wealthy, sharp people that can download a computer that can draft.
Well, what I was saying is all those reasons also keep out a lot of average people and people who just want to do it for fun. I've got buddies who tell me it takes too long. I'm bored. I only did 5 of them. So
then they don't do fantasy football. They don't like fantasy football.
Yeah, but some of these tools that people build that can help them quickly, or they maybe draft the first 10 and then turn on the bot, or vice versa. They don't know the late round players. They might actually draft 150. They might actually draft it all. They might,
If I knew there was half the field was drafted by a bot, I would not play best ball.
Right. And
that's
also
not what I'm trying to do.
A lot of this too is also, I want to protect my edge, which you should, but they could complain about you and say, well, maybe we should get rid of Liam. He's played a million times. I haven't. That's not fair. Right. So these arguments can go a lot of directions that you probably don't want. And my kind of general thesis behind gambling is it's an adult game. We're not fucking playing tiddlywinks, right? You have to protect yourself and make these decisions for yourself. Now, obviously, we have to abide by the terms of services of the websites, but I think it's in their benefit to allow whatever in the medium term, maybe the long term, because I do think it will actually increase the volume. Having these tools, having people stream them, it looks cool. It looks interesting. It looks like, oh, I could get an edge on this. What do these numbers mean? Stuff like that. I think in the mean term, this is just my opinion. They're going to do whatever they do, and I'll abide by whatever their services are. I don't care anyways, really. But
yeah, and to be clear, like part of it is you're totally right. Like I want to protect what I perceive is a thing I have an edge at, but it's ultimately like I think it's the death of best ball, which you could argue DFS is veering towards that with the optimizers of today and the tools publicly available.
This will happen to you eventually. Instead of badges, they will limit your play. You'll only be able to play $20 and higher. I'm sure all those things are coming for you.
I'm not playing the puppies anyway,
but I'm sure they're going to do a lot of partitioning.
And to be clear, I could be bad at best ball. I'm very just because I shipped Best Ball Mania 2 does not mean I'm some genius at best ball, right? Like I think I have an edge at the game. It's not. It wasn't my first year playing. Like
I'm just making general points here. I'm just making general points, not necessarily specific at you. Although I did direct it towards you, but just in general, that their terms and services, they're gonna eventually probably have some partitioning of player pools and stuff once they get big enough. Who knows how that'll play out? I also think.
I think that's like
this battle. The battle like with poker of HUDs and bots and stuff like that is kind of like this eternal fight that's tough. And so obviously they're gonna have to fight it in some way, but I think it'd be much better to embrace it and approve certain ones early, or just say no, they already have an auto draft on the site. You could pick the maximum amount of players you can have, and you could rank your guys, and you could come and go as you please and change the strategy and re-rank it. They're already allowing that. Some of these bots would just be what I want to build for me, and maybe I release it too. It's just like a smart auto drafter.
Exactly.
So I can actually get 150 in. It probably wouldn't be plus EV. Maybe it would. I don't know how good it would be. But what I'm trying to do right now, which is just force in all these lineups, I could probably easily create something that would get more reasonable lineups in. And I'm not the only one who would enjoy that. You could definitely increase your market share, your player
pool. People who would enjoy that, no offense to you, but I don't give a fuck if you get your best ball teams in. You have DFS. Right.
Yeah, but my point is the site doesn't care about you either, Liam. My point is it's more beneficial to the site. So if they can get 100 people who are going to 150 and Liam's going to leave, who gives a shit?
Well, if the common people are turned off because they realize
right, but that's what I'm arguing, that I think the common people will benefit from it. So they don't have to be Liam. They can just go pay and get some decent projections and maybe an Autobot that lets them fill out the last 10 picks or 5 picks or something with guys they have no clue who they are, and they're scared, and they're playing these, that happens in DFS and stuff too. So I'm not necessarily sure that it would kill the game. I think the exact opposite. I think it might bring in more people.
I think I'm tend to agree with you, because I don't think that the common person would know the resources out there, but anyone that did know, from my point of view, and I do know what it could be is that's a turnoff. Just like you can't play chess against a robot, you cannot beat the silicone machine in the long run. And I want to say that I agree with you, things are going to be slow to change, because best ball is out of mind for most of the year, right? It's a summer discussion, and then it's see again, it's not what I could see, what someone suggested was basically they ban the HUDs, but then they offer their own HUD, which I don't really want to see. Selfishly, I don't want to see the platforms do that. I don't want them to hold the hands of the consumer, in my point of view. But I don't know, what I like about best ball to me is that it's people who generally it's for fun, right? I think the primary reason why people do it is they like to draft for fun. It's not purely the money thing. It's a little bit more fun than DFS. And you could say that DFS, the fun has been zapped for some people. It's the time horizon's shorter. It gets raked quicker, so it's easier to for it to happen. And I'm just trying to think of like, how do you protect the fun? How do you keep the best ball ecosystem alive? And to me, it's not fun if there's an auto drafting sharp robot out there that, some millionaire can just upload his 150 teams to and not even know anything about football or anything.
What if they weren't a millionaire? What if they were broke? Would you be okay with them entering a sharp lineups from a bot?
Well, I would assume they wouldn't buy the robot or have.
Why do you have to shame millionaires, Liam? Here's another thing too. You could be creating like a drug war situation where if you like ban a bunch of stuff, then it's just like a select group of people are going to use them, right? Because it'll go behind the scenes, and then just few people create these awesome.
But don't you think the sites could detect?
I also don't think bots are gonna. It's not a poker or a chess situation. As you could probably create a pretty good bot, but I don't think it would give you that huge of an edge.
I don't think you would have an edge to win, but I think you could have. Like, I think I could program a bot to draft like me if I wanted to. Like,
definitely, yeah. I think you could do that, but that's not the same thing as if you sit head to head against a poker bot, you're going to lose every single time. You know what I mean? It's not if you play against a chess bot, you're going to lose, right? So, like,
in the long run, you would if the bot is good at best ball, right? It's just that it's
but chaotic. It's not nearly as big of an edge, and there's a chance too that it sucks. That's actually probably more likely that these initial bots will stink, and they're coming. And so, like, you could either go like, I don't like it, or you could be like, okay, what do we do about it? Even though Liam likes the fun aspect of it, it's for money. These are adults. They're going to come for the money. It happens every time in every gambling venue ever. So it's coming. What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like,
Daniel, I don't agree with this fully. Bots can't evaluate players, though. It always hinge on player evaluations, which is objective. If you run the bot, you could input it and be like, I want these guys. Like, you could kind of program and be like, look, I want you to select from this pool of players in the round. And if you select X quarterback, take this player. And if you select a Broncos player, take the Chief. Things like that you could do. Or 10% of the time, take this player. 30. Like, you could tinker it all you want to program it to do it. And it just takes the time suck out of it. Not to mention, like, if these bots exist that can 150 for you, would these contests not feel like, like if everyone could just click their 150 and
think about it from underdogs perspective. Do we want these? Do we want these to fill instantly, like Liam just said? Fuck yes, and then we'll just. I don't
think you're right there. I think underdogs long-term move is customer acquisition for segueing to a sports betting platform.
Right.
Just like they don't. Sure. It's not best ball. You rake it once a year. Best ball is purely customer acquisition for all of these sites, I think.
Yeah, certainly. But I do think that they don't mind filling and getting money right now. I doubt they'd be like, no, we don't want that. We've heard Rudman and stuff like, man, I wish they would fill. I hope it fills early. I hope people play early. They want players. So like, a neutral EV bot would be absolutely perfect for them. Because by the way, they would like everyone.
If it doesn't turn off,
they would like everyone being even. They want everyone to be even, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
They don't want good, super good players just fucking scooping up all the EV. And I think best ball is kind of unique like that. You can't really get that huge of an edge in a giant field like that, like a giant 17-week long draft format, unlike DFS. I could be wrong. I don't think I am though. So like, I don't think the edge, the ceiling edge in best ball's that huge. So like, I'm not sure bots are the end of the world like they are in poker.
It depends, again, public perception. Like if most people don't know about it and they're ignorant to it, or if most people don't care about it, which like, then who cares, right? I agree with you. But if people are aware of it, knowing it's happening, they're going to be turned off from it. I mean, the benefit that best ball has compared to DFS 2 is, let's say you're the worst best ball player in the world and you won 50 max every year. You're not going to realize that you're that bad at best ball for like decades.
5 years. Yeah.
Decades, right? Like, it's not like DFS where you're like, damn, I lost last year, I lost this year. You know, like,
that's why DFS higher skill gap.
The longer time horizon, you know, like that.
Yeah, but perception can go a lot of different ways, right? We're assuming how this is all going to play out. It could be they ban it, and then it's found out that like a small group of people are using bots and all these things, and it looks even worse. And then no one wants the best ball because they ban it, but yet the people still use it. Who knows? It could go.
But perception to me, like, would you risk your like if they can detect it, they can enforce the ban, right? And
yeah, but that's what happens in a black market is, you can get them and then they get better, and then you can't get them, and then they get them again, and then they get better. And if there's always money to be had, and but like I said, like I just don't think the edge is that big in basketball to really concern yourself too much about it as a player or as the company. And you could probably parlay it or play it and work with the perception and make it so you get a lot of people who want to play who wouldn't play before. Like, I guarantee the SEO for PokerBot is huge. I guarantee there's a bunch of fake sites that have fake poker bots, and they're trying to get, because people want to be like, hey, maybe I can get a poker bot and just let it run and then make all the money.
Here's the pushback I'll give there. To me, best ball can explode if it latches on with the ESPN and Yahoo casual crowd who does their home league drafts. That type of person is going to be tuned in by just, hey, you get a draft. Like, they're not going to be tuned in by, look at this really advanced robot that's going to help you make your selections. That's not what they want to do. They want to do player takes. They want to take their people. They just want the platform to draft it on. They're not looking for these advanced tools. There's a very small percentage of people that would be turned on by that, in my opinion.
I know, but like if you go back to the early days of poker and go like, no one's going to want to have these HUDs or whatever, or they're going to talk in this jargon that no one can understand with all the poker lingo and all these poker content sites and all this stuff. No one wants that, Liam, right? That's exactly what they would have said in 2001, right? And it played out totally differently. And they didn't even want to talk about GTO, right? It was a bunch of scammy people selling this GTO stuff. Like you're assuming the end game, but you really don't know.
If poker got here in 20 years, best ball, it will take 2,000 years to get to the point where people have been like, damn, like there's robots out here that can, you know what I mean? Like I need this robot to have an edge.
No, but like a lot of people got into HUDs and all sorts of like little like there's a whole little market on modding your poker cards and modding the site and what it looked like. And Poker Ninja, where you could like line up your tables perfectly so you can multi-table more efficiently. Those are all edges, and there's tons of competition in Poker Tracker, just like Roto Tracker and DFS, and all these sorts of things that you could have said in 2001. Brian, no one's going to want to do those things.
It's hilarious. The ESPN Home League Brickbot would smash.
Just fucking.
Do you want to grind your $20 home league?
Yeah, like I could see that happening. Fucking Vegas Dave's bot, right? And it sucks balls. He just paid some guy
to do that. I mean, I guess they are.
There's idiots everywhere.
They download rankings and they think everyone thinks they're the smartest in the world. They have Matthew Berry's rankings. And they're like, oh, my home league, like this is my Christmas money. I
just think trying to predict the future like you're doing is a fool's errand. Like,
I'm not trying to predict it.
You can have these narratives in your head.
I'm worried.
Where it's like, this is the worst case scenario. Here's what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Here's my concerns and stuff like that. All valid. Sure. Yeah. Those are on the realm of possibilities of what could occur in the future. But honestly, you don't know. And like, neither do I. But like I'm telling you, like I don't think it's all doom and gloom for best ball on the bot circus. And
I feel to be clear, like I'm primarily a best ball channel at this point. I feel like and I shipped a big contest, right? Like I feel an obligation to have these conversations Because there's things I've thought of, and I'm like, oh well, I don't really want to like rock the boat, like again, like I don't want to hurt the bottom line of a small business owner who's selling a useful platform. But I think it's like A, disingenuous, and B, wrong for me not to like bring out concerns, because what you don't want is you don't want the bots to be there and there to be an ethic concern, and then like sites are trying to make catch up. So having these type of conversations I'm sure the sites are already aware, but hopefully it forces them.
They know about my HUD. And there's also like,
did you reach out before you did that, or did you just like, hey, I'm on it, and they were like, oh, no worries?
Yeah, they're like, they barely respond to me, and eventually got popular and like, hey, what about that? But like, I think there's also like, you don't think people should be able to overlay their data their data they pay for, to make it a little easier to draft? Like, are you against that?
We'll say it again before we highlight.
Like people using their own data, overlaying their own info they pay for. Just it makes it easier to go from one page to another. So instead of going to your ownership tab, it's just right there, right next to the player. Right? It's just like little easier, like maybe something for multi-tabling to make it easier to multi-table. Are you opposed to all these things?
The HUDs of today, I'm generally not I don't have a problem with. I mean, I would prefer they're not a thing again, because like I want it to be, what does everyone know? Like rip some drafts, and I think that's a little self-serving of me, because I think I can do that very well. But in general, no, like I don't have a problem with the HUDs of today, but I think it's we have some unhinged comments in our I think I don't know. I think I don't have a problem with the HUDs of today, but I know what it could be. I have no problem with like the data analysis side that like Spike Week allows you to do, and perhaps you allow you to do. But all right, Bob, I'll give you your attention, man. He said HUDs are for pussies, man up.
Yeah, that one he hit, but he does seem like a douchebag with the rest of his comments. So
yeah, sorry, I mean, I have to ignore some of his stuff, but
that was a good.
We like all support on this channel. I don't think that the sites would do this, because then you have like, I think the transparency is important. To know who you're drafting against. Yeah. Like you need to like that badge thing that the sites have to do. I think that's like a legal obligation. And like you would like, if you need to know as a consumer that if Brick and his 5 buddies are always drafting together and always doing weird shit at midnight, like I could identify that pattern if I'm in with them. So like you can't do the anonymous names to avoid the bots.
Right. That's what Bodog eventually went to. Again, like I seriously, I think the early criticism here of HUDs in general is unwarranted. Like this is stuff like, seriously, you could just put up a spreadsheet next to your draft. It just saves you one step. It's not a big deal at all. And I know for sure, since I own the fucking product, that like people email me who wouldn't have played otherwise. And they're like, I'm going to rip some drafts with your shit because it's a little easier, and it's a little more fun for me to have my numbers up there. You know what I mean? It's really hard to estimate other people's subjective value. It's fucking impossible. Read some fucking Mises. Okay, read some economists.
And to be clear, I don't have a problem with the HUDs of today. I don't think that that's like a game breaker, but I do think it's step one of something that's coming for this gambling industry, which is like, do you really think that the 98% of casual drafters out there would be thrilled to be drafting against a computer that is no human, like a sharp computer auto drafting bot?
Well, like, again, I just won't grant the premise. Like, you sure? Like, yeah, okay. If everyone's drafting with this super awesome bot, of course that would fucking suck. I just don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, if that exact scenario happens, sure. Here's what I'm picturing is for next year is a bot that is just a smart bot compared to the one they already offer. just makes it a little bit better so you don't draft complete donkey teams. I think that's achievable and totally fine and fair, in my opinion. If they make it illegal, they make it fucking illegal. I don't care. But other people are going to use it. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And then you're going to have to figure out how to find how they're doing it and then ban them. And it's this cat and mouse game that never goes well. I think it's better to just embrace it. That's my personal opinion. And then also from that bot, I think would be cool for my product anyways, is a suggested player. I think that would be fun. So like, I want to take Curtis Godwin, but the bot thinks I should take Elijah Moore, whatever. It's like, why? Why does that think that? I think that could be fun content to stream, fun content for people to use to make the game more enjoyable. There's a whole bunch of directions this can go other than 98% of super bots and 2 donkeys.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I fully realize that I'm talking about the extreme negative in my concern, right? Like, and I agree with you where it could be like if it's something that like streamers embrace and allows you to do something fun with whatever, like, I don't know. It's just, again, the big allure to best ball to me to begin as like a non-DFS power user was that it kept those people out of the space pretty much. It was not worth their time. And honestly, I viewed the DFS power users almost as whales rather than sharks that did best ball because they would auto draft their teams and the platforms were so unfriendly to auto drafting sharp teams. And so it was like, well, this is great. These people are doing this for like tax reasons.
You're kind of contradicting yourself earlier though, because you were saying like no one's looking for these tools. So then how do they know that all the DFS players have these tools? So why enter? Like either one of these things is true or not the other. And by the way, Bob, you're not allowed to have my fucking HUD. If I find your email, I'm fucking deleting it. How about that?
Yeah, Brian's.
You think I care about $25?
You think Brian's stressed about it, Bob? Bro, we're gonna give you a little timeout. How do I do that?
I'm kidding. Don't time out. I'm just busting this.
Okay, all right.
I'm kidding.
Get him, Brick. Get him. Yeah. Well, man, I think I'm really happy we had this conversation because obviously, like, I'm not really feeling an emotional attachment from you, but you're one of the 2 HUD providers that I know of. I'm sure there's others. So like, clearly there's going to be some bias from both of us in this discussion. And I just think this discussion should occur. I think it's wrong that we should just willfully, if you enjoy best ball and what it is, I think it's wrong to just like stick your head in the sand and be like, great, look at this. I don't know, like maybe you could talk a little bit before we get out of here, coming up on an hour and a half, but maybe talk about a little bit about like DFS and how you saw it change as more tools became publicly available. Anything you want to say on that?
Well, yeah, the game, I mean, it's with this in any competitive arena that's got money involved. It gets sharper, smarter people get involved. The tools get better, even in physical sports, right? The tools they use to bat with or play with or protect themselves or shoot drugs into themselves or blood dope, etc. And again, like I was saying earlier, like this is a gambling game. Like we should look at it honestly, like adults, I think, as players and be like, you got to protect yourself. These things are coming. What are you going to do about them? And I think it's going to work itself out one way or another. The sites are either going to ban it all or ban some of it or encourage some of it. Who the hell knows how it all
plays but we
out.
should not just leave it purely to the sites, right? Like if you have a feeling as a public, force those discussions.
Well,
like, don't just let
I'm not a communist, so no, I think the sites should be able to do whatever they want with their product. But
so like there's nothing that DraftKings could do that you like everything DraftKings makes, you just be like, great, good for DraftKings.
Well, no, that's not at all what I was saying, but I don't think we should have control of DraftKings product ever. Yeah.
No.
But, I mean, at a certain point though, with Underdog and DraftKings, I'm actually half joking there with the communist thing because they're so heavily regulated that they're almost becoming public-private partnerships because they keep out competition because they keep raising the barrier of entry through lobbied regulation.
We're seeing this with best ball too, where DraftKings continues to release contests and that they know are going to overlay, probably to try to bury drafters or any other and I think DraftKings was foolish to not take best ball seriously, in the beginning. Like, I don't know if it's that their code is just so spaghetti that they can't provide products, but like they were really foolish to not take Underdog and other best ball platforms seriously. Like they could have really monopolized the space if they wanted to early on, and they didn't.
It's hard to be good at multiple things, as most companies know. Usually they specialize, which is what gives them their edge over the competition. So, it's hard to blame them. FanDuel dropped the ball way worse than they did. I mean, they had a basketball product and just blew it up. And I don't think they even offered anything good this year, right? I don't think they ended up.
Don't even know if they have contests.
Yeah, they have contests. They have like just little cash.
Well, they don't have tournaments. They haven't had tournaments for.
Yeah, I don't think they have any tournaments. And Yahoo also didn't take it seriously. Like they've easily could have done. Like I thought for sure Yahoo was going to do a home basketball, like allow their users to
do. They
have
cash game leagues.
Just cash game leagues, as far as I know.
Crash,
And and you can't choose the basketball scoring in home leagues, which just seems like couldn't you just turn that on and then introduce your huge clientele to your basketball product? I don't know, whatever. Like, so I agree with you. They didn't take it seriously, but like compared to their competitors, they actually, at least they have something, So,
well, to me,
it is the worst product for sure.
I think DraftKings, some stuffy dudes made a decision like, we can only rake this product once a year. Why care about it? You can see let's transition to DK Rainmakers. Like, this is our future. Like, they're putting a lot of effort into that. But they just did not realize that it's such a good, like the fact that Underdog has such great customer experience with people, like people like their product, and people like, I just did 60 best ball drafts on DK in 2 days. Hating my life right now, that's a little dramatic, but do you think it's because their code is so old that they can't offer it, or do you think they literally don't care?
Fuck if I know. Like a lot of people say they don't care anymore, and so like I don't know. It seems like oh God, now I'm blanking on his name. Who's the owner of DraftKings?
Matt Kalish is one of the guys I've been seeing talk about.
He's a founder, but he's not the main guy. Oh my God, I've met this guy like 4 times in person. I can't remember his name. Somebody in chat, come on, you should know. But
yes, who's the owner of DraftKings? Rip a little Google for us.
He seems very competitive, so it's kind of surprising. I can picture his face, can't think of his name. Jason Robbins, got it. There it goes.
But who knows how much day to day he's doing about that?
Exactly, yeah. So like and you also have to deal with the capitals of 30, 40 states. And the politicking and the federal level, you still have to be involved there, and there's a lot of work. I beat you, Sergeant. I think I beat you.
Yeah, you did.
There's a lot of stuff going on. So like it's just interesting to show like the dynamics of different businesses and the motivations behind them, incentives, and like the product that they provide. That type of stuff is pretty interesting in general, but you can only rake best ball once a year until they get these guys doing it, their cash games. So
yeah, well, and I've been open, like I think a great contest, and we're going to get out of here in a couple moments, but
yeah,
I think a great contest would be a DFS with your best ball lineups, where you choose the best ball lineup to enter into the DFS contest. So it's like it's the DFS Millie Maker, and you submit one of your best ball lineups that you drafted in the offseason. Like, isn't that fun?
That's cool. I like that idea.
And
sure,
and you can rake that weekly.
Yeah, and you could say like you have to draft every 10 teams you draft in best ball. Like you could put one team into this special tournament.
Oh no! It's just you enter. It's $10 to enter, and whatever.
Oh, okay.
Like so, it's literally like DFS fields, but you have to. So like maybe you're building your best ball teams in the offseason, like, I want a bill stack for DFS purposes, or like, you have to look at the schedule, and you have to be like, for week 15, I want to have all main slate guys for the main slate, so I don't have Thursday night players, etc. Like, it would be fun, I think. And
so is it season-long DFS? So season-long DFS is what you're saying, basically?
It's basically, so it's 2 ways. Either at the start of the year, you submit your favorite best ball lineup into a separate, like you choose one of your best balls. it's single entry, and so it's like you choose the best ball that you drafted in a regular draft to put into the separate contest that just runs like a normal best ball tournament. But then also week 1, week 2, etc. For week 1 main slate, you can submit a best ball lineup you drafted in the offseason for the DFS contest. It's not DFS, you're not building it. You're just submitting a best ball lineup that you think is good to score the most points that week. And then it's best ball scoring, but DFS payouts. It's not DFS, it's just weekly, I guess.
I got lost about a quarter of the way.
I throw a lot at you, Brian.
All right, man. Let's
let's get out of here. Brian, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, happy we had the talk about the HUDs and whatnot. And
let's do it again.
I could be totally wrong about the concern. Like it could be nothing.
And I mean, I don't think I'm like saying anything definitively one way or another. I agree with you. If it's like 95% bots that are fucking awesome, best ball's dead, and they're gonna have to police that for sure. I agree with that, but I also just think like it's like a natural progression to go down this road, and there's a lot of ways it could play out.
It's so new, man. Like it's real. Like it's
exactly
a lot of casuals were onboarded this year, but like what are the contests going to be in a couple of years from now?
And I do think there's a larger than you think base of guys who would play with tools who otherwise wouldn't. And even though they're a small pool, they'll play a lot, and they could get interested in it and stuff. And
that's also the people I don't want to help, like the people like sharp bankroll people who are not purely because of the time investment reasons. Like that's what I keep that small people that would do a lot of entries out of the player pool. Like either man up and put in the time or make money in the markets like they could do anyways.
And maybe that's an option too. Like two different, like this is manual only, and then this is, whatever, free for all, obviously, like who knows if they could partition it that way too. I don't know. Who knows how this plays out is all I'm saying. We're just in the infancy. But let's see how it plays out over the next 6 months or whatever. And we'll do it again. See if you come up with any more concerns, or if I come up with any ideas.
Oh, I definitely will. Guys, smash that subscribe button. Brian, thanks for coming on. Definitely going to have you on again. Tell the people real quick before we get out of here what you have coming down the pipe as far as and what you offer on your site. I think you touched on a lot of it, but just why they should choose your site.
I also have a podcast too, Lulz, with Peter Overzet, Wednesdays on Pete's YouTube, but we also release the audio, so check that out. My site, brick75.com, I do release ownership projections for MMA and PGA that are mine. I do my own. They're free. I'm most likely, if I could get my APIs working, also going to do some props pricing and just release those for free on my site. That'll also be on my HUD that we've been talking about a lot here. It's $25 a month. That's got the overlay. No Autobot, none of that stuff. It just displays the data for your best balls, and it'll work for cash games. We have hockey projections now from puckluck.com. We have golf projections from Fantasy Golf Bag. And so those are all included with the app. So you can overlay that data on your best ball PGA. And we're going to try to get NBA too. And obviously we have NFL, and it'll work during the regular season too. And then works with props like Prize Picks and those pick'em sites and stuff. And we're going to add DFS. DFS is already on there, but we're going to add some cool stuff on DFS too.
And it has like a composite. The HUD has a composite ranking of Herzig and Overzet and Davis's.
Yeah, I came up with that myself for me, and I'm like, people probably like it. I took all their CSVs and I averaged them together and then regressed them to the mean. And like I call it just a target score. So like as I'm drafting a bunch of drafts, I know like I'm under them and these guys are paying attention. I'm not. It's paying it close attention. So I will pick.
Well, who cares? The market's just right? No, I'm kidding with you. All right, guys. Tell your family you love them and have a great day. Grind out those last best balls. I'll see you in those DFS streets starting Thursday. Do not dupe our showdown lineup from earlier. Brick and I need that mill split bad. See you guys.